Today's topic is about, I've entitled it Peter's Miracle. And you might wonder why I'm calling it Peter's Miracle, but I think it's a fitting topic. And the setting begins when Jesus, with his disciples on a Thursday evening, Jesus invites his disciples to go and have a communion service. They go there and they break bread together, and the atmosphere is a little tense. Judas seems a bit weird. Everybody's wondering what's happening. They feel in a certain way they have never felt before. Jesus seems a little sadder than usual, and things are happening. And all of a sudden, Jesus says to Judas, whatever you're going to do it now. And the disciples, they think, you know what? Maybe he's going to go and buy food, because Judas was a treasurer. He had the money, so they didn't know what was going on. But Jesus knew what was happening. See, Judas had already made a deal with the Pharisees that he was going to betray Jesus. He was going to sell them the one that they wanted to kill. And he seemed to be their ticket to get to Jesus. So everything went. Jesus washed the feet of the disciples, and they sang a song, and then he prayed for them. And then they moved out of that setting, and they went into the Garden of Gethsemane, where again Jesus prays. Jesus prays for his disciples. He takes Peter, James, and John a little closer, and he asks them to watch and pray, and they fell asleep. And then he comes and finds them sleeping. He tells them again, watch and pray, and he goes back. And for 3 times, the third time Jesus comes and says to them, get up, let's move on, because Jesus knew now that something great was going to happen. And this is where the story takes us to where I want us to go today. But before we get there, I just want to give you some background of Peter and what's happening in the mind of Peter, and then I'll take you to the actual moment that I want to pull some lessons from today. Matthew 26 and verse 31. Listen to what Jesus says while they're sitting at the table there breaking bread. It says, then Jesus said to them, all of you will be made to do what? Are you with me? All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. Matthew puts it in this way. He says, Jesus said to them, all of you are going to be made to stumble. Mark also says the same, but Luke puts it in a different light. Luke 22 and verse 31 says, and this is what Jesus says, and the Lord said, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked you that he may sift you as what? As wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail. And when you have returned to me, strengthen your brethren. This is what Jesus said while he is there. All the disciples are around them, and Jesus is saying these words that are causing some kind of friction, some kind of tension in the hearts of the disciples. And John 13:36 puts it this way. Simon said to Jesus, Lord, where are you going? Jesus answered him, where I'm going you cannot follow me, but you shall follow me afterward. I just want you to look at the different ways that the gospel writers are putting the scene that we're going to talk about right now. In Matthew, Jesus says, many of you will be made to stumble. In Luke says that Jesus spoke specifically to Peter, and he said to him that Satan has asked to sift you as wheat. In other words, Satan had singled out Peter. He had targeted Peter. And this is what Jesus is saying here now. And in John says that Peter spoke to the Lord and said, Lord, where are you going? It's because Peter sensed that there's something mysterious about Jesus. Now, I want to take you to the reply that Peter answered Jesus. And I take you to Matthew chapter 26 and verse 33. When he heard Jesus says, you guys are going to stumble because of me, Peter answered and said to him, even if all are made to what? Stumble, because of you, I will never be made to stumble. Wow. Isn't that awesome? What good Christian Peter was. Lord, even if John and Andrew and Bartholomew and Thomas, even if these guys stumble, I want you to know that I will never stumble because of you. And when he said this, he really meant it. I want you to know that. Peter is not joking here. This is not a joke. Peter really means that he is not going to stumble because of anything. Nothing is going to make him stumble. Jesus said to him, "Assuredly I say to you, that this night before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. But Peter, verse 35, watch what he says now. Verse 35 says, Peter said to him, even if, are you with me, church? Don't miss this. Even if I have to die with you, I will what? I will not deny you. Even if I have to die with you, Jesus, I am ready to die. But I want you to know that I'm not going to deny you. And then the text ends by saying, and so said all his disciples. So said all his disciples. Me either, Jesus. You can count on me. You can trust me. I'm there with Peter. I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you down. I'm not going to run away from you. I will be with you until death. Luke puts it in another light, right? Luke chapter 22. The reaction of the disciples when Jesus said, you guys are going to stumble. Luke says, verse 33, Luke 22:33 says, but he said to him, Lord, I am ready to go with you, where? Both to prison and to death. Peter said, Lord, if following you leads me to a dark, closed prison, I want you to know that I'm going to go there with you. I'm not going to let you down, Lord, even to death. John chapter 13, verse 37 says, Peter said to him, Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for your sake. I want you to know that when Peter is saying this, he is excited, probably crying with tears and trusting in himself, believing that what he says is true. I will lay down my life for your sake. Verse 38, Jesus answered him, will you lay down your life for my sake? Most assuredly I say to you, the rooster shall not crow till you have denied me 3 times. Jesus, knowing the heart of his disciples, knowing the heart of Peter himself, who was the most vehement, who was a champion in saying, Lord, I am with you, I'm not going to forsake you. Peter is the most controversial and unspoken disciple that walked with Jesus. Even in the last days of the life of Jesus, he displayed an attitude that is very questionable. So the disciples now go out, and I really think that Peter goes out with that mentality. As a matter of fact, there's another text that says that they said, Lord, here are 2 swords. While they're sitting at the table, I want you to, don't miss a word here, because these guys, 12 disciples, are sitting with Jesus, and they have just washed their feet. They have just ate communion with Jesus, the Son of God. Are you with me? Now they're going out to Gethsemane to pray with Jesus, the Son of God, their best friend. their teacher, their master, whom they have walked with for 3.5 years. And now they are there with Jesus in Gethsemane. And now he gets up with them and he says, let's move on. And while he is talking to them, Matthew 26, verse 47, takes us now to the scene where the whole action is. Verse 47 says, and while he was still speaking, Matthew 26, 47, while he was still speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude of swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and elders of the people. Notice now, these are the weapons that they're using. They're ready for action. They come with swords and clubs, and they're ready for whatever is going to take place. 49. Verse 49. Immediately, he went up to Jesus, Judas went up to Jesus, greeting him, and he said, Rabbi, and did what? Kissed him. Now, there's a lot to be said about this kiss. Here is Jesus' friend. As a matter of fact, Jesus says, friend, why have you come? Jesus calls him friend, knowing that he is literally betraying him with a kiss. Says a lot. Then they came and laid their hands on Jesus, and they took him. Verse 51. And suddenly, one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hand, drew his sword, and struck the servant of the high priest, and did what? Cut off his ear. Now, the other Gospels say a little different things about that. For example, Luke 22, verse 48, we're going to just jump there a bit. It says that, verse 50, and one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. Okay? Now, these guys aren't saying who the person is that cut off the ear. And one of them says it's the right ear. But John, in John 18, verse 10, says, Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Now, I wonder why Matthew, Mark, and Luke are not mentioning names and why John is. One of my beliefs that John actually mentions the name of Peter is most likely at the time of the writing of the book of John, Peter was already sacrificed. John is the last gospel being written. So John mentions who the person was that cut the ear off of the high priest. Now, just want to kind of picture this, right? And I wonder what really was Peter trying to do? Like, what was he doing? First of all, what is Peter doing with a sword? Have you asked that question? Why does Peter have a sword? If he's walking with Jesus and all Jesus talks about is peace, love. Jesus said to his disciples, he said, you should love your enemies. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, give them your left cheek so that they want to slap you too. Maybe they didn't have enough. Let them have enough. Are you with me? He said, if someone forces you to walk a mile, then walk 2 miles with them. But here's Peter now. He has a sword. For what? And what was his intention with that sword? Like, how can you have a sword and only cut off the ear of a person? Where was that sword really intended to go? It didn't go below the neck, so he wasn't looking for the arms or the legs. Like, he wasn't just trying to pierce the guy. It went for the head. It shows the intention of Peter in swinging the sword. Are you with me? Now, why am I saying this is they had just come out of communion. Like Jesus had just washed Peter's feet. And here he is with a sword, and he is ready to kill somebody. Have you just walked out of church someday and you're really, really tempted? Did you just get up from praying? And if you had a sword, you'd probably be swinging it like Peter? Someone said, well, we don't use swords. What about your tongue? The words you speak, attitudes, things you do. Just got out of praying. Just close the Bible and you've prayed, God, I want to have a good day today. I want to please you in everything, and and then you went to work. And you just prayed, Lord, change my heart. I want to be a new person. I want to be light, because the preacher said on Sabbath that we have to shine. Let the light of Christ shine through us. And then you walked out. And then your husband came. And then the wife said something. And just pressed that button that she shouldn't have pressed. And then you're looking for the sword, right? How? So I think about Malchus. Malchus is the guy that Peter chopped his ear off. When he feels that ear pop, now the Bible is clear. It says, cut the ear off. What happens? The ear falls. Are you with me? I need to picture this a little so we could really get a point here. It falls. Now, Jesus says in Matthew 26 and verse 52, watch what Jesus says. But Jesus said to him, put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will what? Perish by the sword. Matthew, Mark, or John don't say what Jesus did to the ear. It is Dr. Luke who gives us more insight on what Jesus did as a miracle there. So we go to Luke chapter 22, verse 51, and it says, but Jesus answered and said, permit this. And then he touched his ear and did what? And healed him. Now, we don't know if Jesus picked up the cut off ear and stuck it back on. It doesn't say. It says he touched him. Now, if we take this literally, I would prefer to think that when Jesus touched the man, the bleeding side of the ear, he actually recreated a new ear. Amen, somebody? Because he did not need the cut off ear in order to have a new ear into the man. He could make a new ear. That's the Jesus that we serve. Now, there's another beautiful thing about this is there was so much confusion going on. People are ready to fight. There's a lot of tension going on there. The disciples, they don't know whether they should run or fight along with Peter. Peter knew what he was going to do. He was going to fight. Because that's what he had promised to do. He told his master, I will die for you. I will fight for you. I'll go to prison for you. And he meant it. But in trying to do it his way, he hurt people. He is hurting somebody else. Are you with me, church? Anytime you try to do things your way and not God's way, somebody's going to get hurt. Either yourself or somebody else. Because we are all made of hurt. We were born in hurt. We were born in pain. The whole world is full of pain. But thank God for Jesus, that even in the midst of pain, he could bring something good out of it. He can heal the broken heart. He can mend the broken relationships. Jesus is able to do anything. He is mighty, He is powerful if we could only trust in Him. So Jesus, in all this confusion, now watch this. Jesus had already been held by His enemies. They were holding His hands. Either they had tied His hands or they were holding Him tight because they had one mission: do not let Jesus escape. But Jesus, being held by these people, lets Himself go, and He releases Himself, and He has the time to touch His enemy's ear and heal him. Nothing can block God from doing a miracle in his life when He's about to do so, if you just allow Him. My friends, today I want you to know that in the midst of sorrow, in the midst of depression, in the midst of anxiety, if you just hold on, Jesus has the answer for you. We live in a dark world, a terrible world. There's only pain and suffering for people without God, people without hope. But you have hope. Just trust, just hold on. Don't let the circumstances, the situation bring you down to desperation and thinking that there's no way out. There is a way out, and even when everything is lost, even when your prayers doesn't seem to be answered, remember God's promise will never fail. It may take a while, it may take longer than you want it to happen, but it will happen because God knows the best time for it. It is the devil's intention to bring us down, to remove, to keep us blindfolded, to keep us in darkness, to think that God doesn't hear us, He doesn't answer our prayers, that He is not there, but that is a lie. The Bible itself tells us the devil is a liar. I just want to mention a few things about what we just spoke about. Number one, Jesus knows our heart more than we know ourselves. And even when you say, Lord, I will be faithful to you, remember you are only flesh and blood. You cannot trust in yourself. You cannot be self-confident. You must trust only in God. So we should never be self-confident. That's number two. Number three, do not fight fire with fire. Jesus Himself said, for your enemy, do good to them and you will heap coals up on their head. But do not fight back with the same intensity. It's not going to go anywhere. And I say that even in a relationship, husband and wife. Your husband is yelling. Don't yell back because then you're going to end up in a terrible fight. They say a fight takes two persons. A person can't fight by themselves. Although some women may get mad because you're quiet. But remember, if you're quiet, she can't say that you said. Do not fight fire with fire. Same thing with women to men. In other words, when we use our own methods to try to solve problems, we end up hurting. 4, Jesus can turn any situation into a blessing. 5, Jesus is able to work a miracle even through confusion. We live in a confused world. 6, even when we mess up, make mistakes, Jesus is there to help us. 7, Jesus is willing to heal us. Jesus is willing to repair our brokenness even when we are responsible for our own pain. I'm going to repeat that one. Jesus is willing to heal and to repair our brokenness, even when you are broken for something that you yourself did. Somebody's having problem believing this. Somebody's having a big time problem believing this. Malchus, that high priest servant, he should not have been there. Who told him? Who sent him there? It was his decision. It was his doing to be there. But yet, Jesus, in his grace and mercy, healed his pain, healed his brokenness. And I can almost guarantee you his life was never the same, because he had met, in the midst of his pain, he met the healer who could heal even his ear. My dear friends, even when you put yourself in a situation, remember that Jesus is still available to help you. Amen, somebody? There is hope in Jesus. Number 9, there is hope for even you. Let me tell you, if there was hope for Peter, there's hope for you. Jesus is always near to help and forgive for any wrong in the past. And finally, He has plans for your life.